The war had turned the frontier into a field of dust and broken metal as human and alien forces clashed over contested space for months. Gale was one of the many soldiers deployed to hold a thin line on a desolate moon where every ridge hid danger. He was not a hero in rank or record, but he had a habit of stepping forward when others stepped back, and that habit would change his life in ways he could not imagine. Clash that set everything in motion began when a distant thunder rolled across the basin as alien artillery struck human outposts. Gale and his squad sprinted toward a trench as the sky rained debris. The air was thick with static from the alien weapons that hummed with a strange crackling energy. Gale pushed through the haze, searching for survivors after the first strike hit. He found scattered equipment, overturned crates, and a strange trail of deep footprints that did not belong to his own people. He followed the footprints without thinking. His comrades called after him, but their voices were drowned by another distant blast. The trail led to a collapsed storage dome where a faint whimper echoed. Gale paused, bracing himself for an ambush. Instead, he found a small figure trapped under a broken support beam. It was no larger than a human child, but covered in smooth, pale scales that shimmered faintly. Its large eyes blinked with confusion and pain. Gale lowered his weapon. The small alien stared at him, trembling. More artillery rumbled across the field. Gale knew his squad would fall back soon, and he could not leave the young creature to die under rubble. Against every rule of war, he set his rifle aside and kneeled. He lifted the beam using every ounce of strength and dragged the child out. The small alien gasped and clung to his sleeve with surprising trust. Then the trembling ground gave him the warning a moment before the shot fired. A distant alien sniper had found the collapsed dome. Gale saw the reflection of the shot before he heard it. The beam was aimed not at him, but at the child. Without hesitating, he threw himself over the small alien. The impact struck him in the back as a burning force rippled through armor and skin. Gale collapsed with a grunt, but kept his arms around the child. The young alien screamed and pressed tiny hands against Gale's chest as if trying to shield him in return. Gale felt his vision blur, but he stayed awake just long enough to see the sniper taking aim again. He tightened his hold around the child, expecting the end dot, instead a blast of shimmering green light erupted from the ridge above. Alien soldiers in ornate armor swept in, forming a protective wall. They were not attacking him. They were surrounding him. A tall figure strode toward him with a presence that silenced everyone around. Her scaled form shimmered with deep violet hues. Her eyes glowed with fierce intelligence. She carried herself with the authority of a leader. This was Mira, the alien commander whose forces humans feared for her swift tactics and decisive strikes. Her gaze fell to the small alien, child still held tightly against Gale's chest. She knelt beside them and touched the child's head, offering comfort. The young alien chirped softly and pressed against her. Myra's posture stiffened as she examined Gale's wound. Her eyes narrowed as she realized what he had done. The human had shielded her young one with his own body. That act alone disrupted everything she thought she knew about humans. Her soldiers were tense, expecting orders to strike down the wounded human. Instead, Myra raised a hand commanding silence. She issued a single order in her tongue. The soldiers lifted Gale gently and carried him alongside the child. Human and alien war machines continued to clash in the distance, but none dared challenge Mira's escort. Gale drifted in and out of consciousness as he was carried through alien lines into a vast subterranean chamber where shimmering lights floated from the ceiling like drifting moons. He felt pressure on his wound as alien healers placed glimmering stones above him. Warm energy pulsed through his body. He could not speak, but he understood he was no longer among enemies. The child he saved remained by his side, touching his arm whenever his breath faltered. When Gale finally awoke, he lay on a soft platform surrounded by gentle light. His wound was covered by a translucent cloth that pulsed with faint energy. The child was curled beside him, sleeping peacefully. He attempted to sit up, but pain in his back warned him to remain still. A voice spoke from the shadows. Myra stepped forward, her gaze fixed on him with an intensity that made him tense. She spoke in slow, deliberate human language, her tone calm. She thanked him for protecting her child. Rin. Gale nodded, unable to find proper words. Mira approached him and placed a hand on his shoulder. She told him he was safe here, and no harm would come to him. She explained that Rin had been separated from their group during the artillery strike. She admitted she expected a human soldier to either ignore or capture the child. The idea that one would risk his life was something she had not believed possible. Her voice carried more emotion than he thought an alien commander would show. Days passed as Gale recovered. Rin visited him, constantly bringing small glowing stones or pressed leaves with shimmering patterns that seemed like gifts. Gale smiled each time the young alien chattered excitedly. Mira visited as well, though her presence was quieter, more thoughtful. She asked questions about human customs and beliefs. She listened carefully to Gale's answers, comparing them to our own people's ways. She spoke of the war and how neither side understood the other. For the first time, Gale saw the conflict through another lens. One evening, Mira entered with a heavier expression. She explained that human forces were preparing a major offensive. If they advanced into these tunnels, Gale would be captured or killed by either side. She told him that she had made a decision. She intended to take him to her home territory, far away from the battlefield. There he would be protected. Gale stared at her stunned. Being taken that far meant he would be considered lost in action. Humanity would assume he died. He asked her why she would do that. Myra did not answer at first. She looked at Rin, who had climbed onto Gale's lap. Then she looked back at him with a depth of meaning he could not misread. She said he had saved what mattered most to her. Her people did not forget such acts. She added that Rin would not allow him to leave. The child had grown attached to him and cried whenever someone else tended to him. Myra placed a hand on Gale's arm. She said she did not want to lose him either. Gale felt conflicted. He owed loyalty to his own people, yet he could not deny the bond that formed here. Rin pressed small hands to his chest, gazing up with trust. Mira waited silently, her expression firm yet hopeful. Gale realized the war had taken so much from both sides. If he returned, he would be sent back to fight. If he stayed, he might help bridge understanding between species. But staying meant he could never go back to the life he once knew. Mira sensed his turmoil and stepped closer. She told him he would not be a prisoner. She wanted him as part of her family's circle, a role of deep respect among her people. It was not a request made lightly. Gale looked at her, surprised by the weight of the offer. Myra's gaze did not waver. She said she wanted to take him not as a captive, but as someone she valued. The next day, human forces advanced closer to the alien territory. Explosions echoed through the tunnels. Mira gathered her guards and prepared an escort to move Gale and Rin to a hidden transport chamber. Gale hesitated one last time. He asked her if this was truly the only path. Mira stepped close and placed her hand over his chest, above the place where he had taken the shot. She said softly that she would protect him now, as he protected Rin. Her voice held a promise stronger than any command. Rin clung to Gale's arm, chirping anxiously. The young alien's trust pushed Gale to decide. He nodded. Myra's relief showed only in a slight softening of her eyes, but it was enough. She signaled her guards. They moved quickly through corridors of glowing stone. The ground shook as human artillery neared. Gale felt the weight of leaving everything he knew yet. He also felt Rin's small hand gripping his and Mira walking beside him in steady calm. Steps. They reached a chamber shaped like a spiraling shell with a vessel at its center. The craft glowed with soft blue light. Mira motioned for Gale to board. As he stepped inside, he looked back one last time at the tunnels that had become an unlikely sanctuary. Mira joined him, and the vessel lifted with a smooth hum. The entrance sealed, and the craft ascended through hidden shafts toward the alien homeland. Gale sat with Rin curled against him as Mira watched him quietly. She told him her people would receive him with honor. She added that she would stand beside him to ensure his safety. Gale nodded, feeling a mixture of uncertainty and strange hope. The war still raged far below, but he had stepped into a different path, one shaped by a choice to protect. A child from another species. As the vessel pierced the surface and rose into the night sky, Gale looked out at the stars. He did not know what future awaited him, but he knew one truth. He had saved Rin without expecting anything. Now Myra intended to keep him by her side. The journey ahead would change him, and perhaps change the fate of two worlds. The vessel soared through the darkness, carrying Gale, Rin, and Mira toward a destiny none of them had foreseen. Gale rested his hand on Rin's head and felt Myra sit beside him in calm silence. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it with them. That was enough for now.